the bump and run, the Bristol move.
That's aggressive, but that's good. Good hard racing. Oh, he puts him out of the groove there.
Oh, man.
Will he get the bumper? Yes, he does. Here comes Logano. Logano on the inside. A drag race. They're sideways. And it's going to be Logano getting the win.
The back end of the 18. Kick out.
Yeah, he got into it right there. Moved him out of the way. Just got the lead.
It's almost too early to be racing that hard for the lead, wasn't it?
Never too early to be racing for the lead.
At Bristol.
At Bristol.
Man, this is one of the biggest wins of my career.
It's the bump and run,
Baby.
Yeah, welcome to the Bump and Run podcast. I'm your host, Michael D. White, joined by my two best friends, Matt the Statman Reilly and Eric Daytona Ron. Hope you guys had a great weekend. Hope you guys had yourselves a Kyle Busch type of weekend. He was the big winner down in Talladega, but I got something to say.
First racing I've seen at Daytona in a long, long time. They took NASCAR West Cup racing and made it some of the sorriest racing, took the racing out of the drivers and the crew's hands. We can't adjust and can't make our cars drive like we want. They just killed the race at Daytona. That's all I got to say. Mr. Bill France Sr. probably roll over his grave if he's seen that deal.
Dale Sr. said the best.
Thank you, Dale.
He was talking about Daytona in 2000, and I feel like that's exactly what we saw at Talladega in 2023. Boys. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Show available every Monday night, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. And available on YouTube every Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. Fellas, how was your weekend?
I wish I could say it was better than the racing, but it wasn't. So I got my yard finished.
Yeah, how'd that go?
I don't know yet, because I mean the landscaping crew did a great job. They leveled everything off, but I don't have grass, so they threw the hay down and everything, planted the grass. Now it's up to me to make sure that this grass grows through. And I don't know if you guys have ever had to water like yards before, but it is the most tedious thing I've ever had to do. So I'm like out there with sprinklers, making sure I'm not overwatering, but I'm watering enough, making sure I'm hitting every spot on the yard. So that's been stressful. My baby and my wife both sick this weekend with with colds and whatnot, fevers and everything. So this weekend has not been great, but I can say this, as a New York Jet fan, for once in my life, the Jets are the shining moment of my weekend, where we got Aaron Rodgers. Nobody cares, but I care. And so it's a very small victory in my life for this weekend, and I'm going to take it.
Yeah, hey, man, you celebrate that. Aaron Rodgers taking the Brett Favre path once again, going from the Green Bay Packers to the New York Jets. We'll see how that goes. I hope it turns out well for you, man. I do. And speaking of grass, I was also laying down some weed and feed on the grass this weekend. So I understand trying to get that lawn looking good. I think the key is to get it saturated, but no sitting puddles of water, right, Matt?
I failed already. I failed already.
Well, that's not good.
Yeah, whatever. You know what? Whatever.
Hey, now it is what it is, I guess. I don't know. How about you, Eric? How's your weekend?
Weekend was all right. Didn't really do much. Did a lot of just sitting around. Saturday, watched the race of the weekend down at the old bar, and got a little twisted up on Saturday. Was supposed to have people over the garage for Sunday, but your boy went a little too ham on Saturday night, and yeah, Sunday was a struggle for me to get back to a level place in the old feelings in the stomach and the head. And so Sunday, I wanted to be better for the race so that I didn't have an excuse to be like, oh, I was hungover, I didn't watch it right, And come race time, I was pretty back to square one where I should have been mentally to consume that race. And I'll tell you what, I wish I was hungover and on the couch passed out. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I was in perfect health on Sunday, and it was Rough. Should we just get into it? Let's jump into the NASCAR news, and then we'll start, tearing this race apart.
Before you do that, I asked the listeners to just bear with us today because that was a rough experience. And I think all three of us have hit the point now where we're just about at our wits' end with this new car, this new package. And so just bear with us today. Hopefully we're at least entertaining for everyone.
I hope so too, but let's start with the NASCAR news.
The Bump and Run NASCAR news.
Two quick stories. Jeff Gordon will be the honorary pace car driver for the All-Star race down at North Wilkesboro. And then Ray Evernham, the honorary starter. So that should be interesting. And then the next piece of news, the All-Star race fan voting is open. So if your driver isn't already locked into the All-Star race, make sure you vote for them. And maybe they'll win their way in. And that's it. That's all I got for NASCAR news. Let's move on to the NASCAR weekend.
Hold on. I do have something.
Do you? Okay.
Did you guys see today? I sent it over to you, but I don't know if you saw it in time. Did you guys see that? So Pitbull, a part owner of Trackhouse Racing, is coming out with a new album. And Pitbull is literally a top 5 superstar in pop music throughout the entire world.
I would say
so. This is a big deal as far as the reach of NASCAR. On his new album, the title of the album is Trackhouse, and then it has the 1 and the 99 cars in the background of the album. So I just thought that was awesome to see.
Mr. Worldwide bringing NASCAR to the mainstream, hopefully. So hopefully we could get a better product for all these new fans coming in. Do you want to jump into the race weekend? I missed it. The race of the weekend was the Xfinity race, and we're kind of on the edge of becoming let's just cover the Xfinity series. Let's just do it. I didn't see the race though, unfortunately, so this week I can't do it.
That's gonna have to change.
But yeah,
if we're gonna cover exclusively the Xfinity series, we're all gonna have to start moving our Saturdays around just a little bit more from here on out.
Oh yeah, but you guys watch the Xfinity race. Jeb Burton scored his second career win. And his second career win at Talladega, too, which I thought was interesting. And the first win for Jordan Anderson Racing in the Xfinity Series. Cinderella story for Jordan Anderson Racing. What did you guys think about the Xfinity Series race?
It was awesome. That Jordan Anderson Cinderella story, why they had that segment before the race showing, if you don't know, he was in the truck series, and last year his truck caught fire and he was trying to get out of his truck. And he was, at that point, he didn't know where he was on the racetrack. Just, I need to get out of this truck. And he just jumped out of the truck and almost pinned himself between the truck and the inside barrier. And ton of burns on his face, his neck, his arm. That ended up being his last race. But, he still has his race team, and it was awesome after they played that segment and had that whole little thing that, Jeb Burton and his team ended up winning that race. So that was awesome. And Jeb, I know we talked about it earlier, he made a lot of ballsy moves to keep himself up front in that 27 car. And he went to the middle one time, and he was hung out to dry by himself, and he side drafted both lanes on the sides of him, and he ended up getting himself back up the front and to keep him there and not lose that. So he was going to do whatever it took to win that race. And man, those first 8-10 laps that Xfinity race, I would take those 10 laps on repeat over anything that I saw this weekend.
Yeah, that racing was phenomenal. I can't say enough good things. I love the Xfinity series. If you guys have listened to us for long enough, you know that a lot of us, the three of us miss a lot of the Xfinity series races, especially during the summertime, because it's middle of the day Saturday. It's hard. And then even in the fall when college football is on, it's hard to catch the races. But the races that we do catch are obviously so great. It's the best racing that we have in the top 3 series by far. I love the Xfinity series race, and I joked with you guys, maybe we should just become an Xfinity Series exclusive podcast, because one, to my knowledge, there's not one out there. And 2, it produces the best form of racing that we get to see week in and week out. So I don't know. It's great that we have that great competitive racing, but it sucks that it's not at our most elite level. So, but yeah, the racing itself was great. I just saw that Blaine Perkins, if you didn't catch the race, there was a real nasty wreck on the backstretch towards the end of the race where Blaine Perkins rolled, I think, 6 or 7 times. Just saw a statement that he's all good. He's going to be fine. So that's good to hear. It always speaks to the safety of these cars, that these drivers can walk away. Eric just mentioned Jordan Anderson's issue last year, and he was able to walk away, not unscathed, unfortunately, but able to walk away, the most important thing. So, but yeah, the Xfinity Series race was great. Junior Motorsports, again, in the same wreck.
Terrible luck.
Lost 3 out of the 4 cars. It seems to happen a lot lately to Junior Motorsports. They're just always getting caught up in the same wrecks. So that's an issue that's got to get straightened out. But yeah, I loved what I saw on Saturday.
Yeah, the cars were just able to move around a lot more. They were able to go and fan out a little bit in the turns and, take air away from someone's car to slow someone down, to be able to, pop in front. They were able to move 1-2 spots at a time if they wanted to, up, down, low. And, they were unstable enough to make it racy enough to pass, but stable enough to, keep it together and not have wrecks every 3 laps. So, I thought whatever that package and whatever that car had, the balance between being able to be racy and fast and stable, that it wasn't out of control. Saturday was an awesome race.
You didn't see guys making stupid mistakes either. Like, it's a lower series. Guys are still very much learning in that series, and that tends to produce a lot of stupid mistakes. And we didn't see that, which was a breath of fresh air. We saw great racing. That's what you want to see at the end of the day.
You know what it is too? It's because they could actually side draft in those cars, and they could manipulate the air around the other car, take air off your tail and stuff, and just be able to move around and actually pass and actually race for the lead and for the win, and not just stuck in two trains side by side. But yeah, I heard it was great. I was listening to a little bit of it on MRN as I was doing my Saturday thing and stuff. But man, I wish I saw it, because the race on Sunday did not deliver. Let's jump into it. Kyle Busch led 3 times for 3 laps. He was the big winner. 3 hours, 33 minutes, 25 seconds. We saw 8 cautions for 34 laps, 57 lead changes among 21 different drivers. I don't really remember them all that much. Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, Chris Buescher, Chase Briscoe, and Brad Keselowski, your top 5. Let's just jump into the race grades.
It's our NASCAR weekend race grade.
I'm just gonna start with my race grade. I give it a D. I want to give it an F. That race was awful. Like, this package sucks. The car sucks. At least when we were running in a train, there was some anticipation that someone would jump out and try to make a second lane. We had 2 trains and the worst super speedway race I've seen yet in this car. Possibly the worst race I've ever seen. And fellas, I don't know how much I could do with this. We like to be positive here on the Bump and Run podcast. We're open to change. We're accepting of everything going on. We always try to make the best of every situation. But man, is it getting hard to defend the race. Like Martinsville last week, typical Martinsville race. I saw people complaining. Even Dale Jr. said maybe we're complaining too much. And then you see this, and I just thought it was awful all day long. Worst race I've seen at something bigger than a mile. I don't know. Am I crazy? What do you guys think?
I don't think you're crazy. So I'll go next. I think we're all going to share the same sentiment, so we can give our grades and then just all talk about it. I never in my life thought that I could grade a super speedway race anything lower than like a B-. Here we are.
It's my favorite style racing. C-. Yeah. All right.
I gave it a C-. This race broke my heart. If you're a regular listener to this podcast, my heart and soul is in super speedway racing. I grew up a Dale Earnhardt fan and a Dale Jr. fan. That was their bread and butter. I absolutely love super speedway racing. And this stupid car and this stupid package have destroyed that. The race stunk. So right, Whitey, I agree with you.
Like bad, dude.
And that's really all I have. And again, like, I hope this isn't someone's first time listening to us, because we're normally not this doom and gloom type of show. We're really, really not. Go back and listen to old episodes. I promise. But we're at the point now where, you know, this car, this package, they don't have it figured out. It's ruining our racing. And, you know, I don't know if it's too early to say. Maybe Junior's right. Maybe we are complaining, but like, yesterday stunk, dude. Like, I didn't think it was possible to have a shitty super speedway race, because even at a super speedway race that's shitty, you have action. You don't know where the wreck's going to come from. You don't know where the moves are going to come from. You don't know
anticipating
if the guy in
something
15th is going to be up in the lead in 2 laps, or vice versa. The guy in the lead is going to drop back to 15th in 2 laps. You don't know. But yesterday, it was pretty much, if you're in first, if you're in second, if you're in third, that's where you're staying for the majority of the race.
And like, you watch guys try to make moves, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like, the top lane, right? Anytime that car got like a car length on him, and then the guy behind him would get about a half car length, and they would just both stall there where no one can make a move. And like, I don't know if it was just the drivers didn't want to let the guy behind them hang out to dry, but like, the only way to get any type of movement was to like jump from top lane down to the bottom lane. And you just kind of had to do that over and over again, but they weren't even doing it. So like, nothing was happening. I kept waiting for someone to dive down into the bottom lane, and it just never happened. It was like, if you're on the outside lane, you're just stuck there, you know? And I don't know, man. I was just so fucking bored watching that race, just waiting and waiting.
I gave this race an NA. Like, I don't know what to give this race, because watching it, I agree with you guys that, you know, it was very lackluster to begin with. You know, and that's when the whole Xfinity thing started, because I said the first 8 laps of that was crazy. The first 100 laps of the Cup race was non-existent. So it's like, I'm just trying to analyze like how I really felt about the race. And even I started thinking about the past couple of weeks as well. And I feel like when it comes to these races, I'm giving them probably a grade up or at least a half, just because of how the race ends. And there's a little bit of excitement at the end of a race. And I'm tired of grading my races just because at the end, we got a little glimpse of something. And I'm grading these as little glimpses as an entire race. At this point in time, I feel like my race grades have been 3rd stage race grades.
Yeah.
Like, at this point, you have to grade these races in stages, because the first 2 are just pointless. And this is, I'll get into it more in my records, I guess. But yeah, man, I didn't know what to grade it. Like, if I were to grade it the way I continuously grade it, I'd probably give it a C- or a D, because it did heat up at the end, and it did get a little bit crazy. But I'm just tired of that, like waiting for the end for something to happen. Like, I'm just, that's the way it's going, and it's just, I'm realizing that now, that it's like up until the end of these races, even sometimes up until the green, white, mother checkered.
Yeah.
The race has sucked until then. And that's where the storyline comes out of, is the last 3 laps. I remember one point telling Dana, I'm like, hey, I wish there was a timer I could set right now for the alarm to go off and say 3 laps to go, because that is the only thing you needed to watch.
That's it. That's all you need to know.
I was literally just going to say it. And what, like if you took the entirety of that race away and you just left the last 5 laps, the outcome probably doesn't change. Like, that's like, there's nothing. Like, I can't think of a moment to really sit down and talk about for the first 98% of that race. Like, there's nothing that we could talk about. We could talk about Reddick
Talk about the
spinning.
lack of is what you talk about.
We can talk about Reddick
of stuff.
Right. We could talk about Reddick spinning coming into the pits and Briscoe spinning coming into the pits, but both of them finished in the top. Where did Reddick finish?
Like 16th or something like that.
Okay, so they both finished in the top half of the pack.
Briscoe finished in
the
fourth.
top 5.
Yeah.
So
third top 5 in a row with a broken finger too. So congratulations to him.
Yeah, you can talk about Michael McDowell breaking whatever the fuck he broke in the car and then screwing up his race. You could talk about Joey Logano, what was it, speeding on pit road, and then that really threw his race away. But like, what are we talking about? You could talk about the race at the wreck at the end with Bubba Wallace, but again, that happened in the last couple laps. So like.
Those are still incidents
before the end of the race.
You know what I mean? Those are still incidents, and that's still pit road stuff. That has nothing to do with the racing product on track.
That's my point.
Zero, right?
That's
there's zero of that to talk about. Like all it is problems and everything. Like there wasn't like, oh my God, did you see this run he had? And he went to the inside, and he took the air, so he went to the out. There was none of that. You know? Even I would have even taken, this train is going ahead. Oh, this train's going ahead. Oh, this train's going ahead. This guy hops in. Now this guy. There was a little bit of that, but only in the first 4 cars did that happen.
Yeah. And like the little bit of excitement that we might have been able to see was anytime Eric Jones attempted to get a third lane going. Right. And then everyone would just bail on him anyways. So like,
and you know what? Like someone brought it up where they're like, oh, I remember Dale Jr. or someone bitching about the car at super speedways a couple years ago too, like how the car wasn't great. And it had to have been around that era, 2013 in there somewhere. I remember vividly that car at super speedways. And Matt, this is to the point when we first started this podcast, I didn't really like super speedway racing and wasn't really like enthusiastic about it, was because my memory of it was watching Kenseth ride around in the back and then try to make a move like EJ did on Sunday multiple times. He would get mid-pack, try to make a third lane, or he would be in the single lane, he'd try to make a second lane. Every time he'd get hung out to dry. And I'd be like, why is nobody going with him? And he would always be the first one to pop out. I'm like, yes, here we go. Let's go, Matt. Try. Like he wanted to drive to get to the front. And he would get hung out to dry. And EJ, he did that a couple times too. And, he didn't have a lot of takers to begin with, but once they saw what he was able to do and he was going to do it every time, like he got some people. That's how Bubba made it up to the front. People don't even realize that Bubba made it to the front via EJ making it 3 wide on the outside. No, he hopped up in front, slowed the fucking momentum completely down from EJ and that line, but he took advantage of it. And then I think after that, they kind of figured that out. And like, I think those middle 2 lanes were just like, I'm not going to let this happen again.
No,
and that middle lane, I think Pinball Hattie would split up a little bit because once they split apart, they knew the bottom was going to be tough. They knew they had more cars in their train. But once they split apart, that top side, it crushed them once they came out of line. Then the middle, they get back together, leave the third run out to dry. And it's like, he tried it multiple times. So I saw this too back in 2013, 15, whenever that was, back when I think that's when that real high downforce package was in play. And I just was not impressed at all with this car at this super speedway. And like you said, I don't want to do it yet because Matt did text something to us on Sunday, and we did see a little bit of it where he goes, maybe we're getting a little too ahead of ourselves. There's still more than half of this race to go. Let's be patient and let's let the race come to us. And it kind of did. And to my point in the beginning, I'm tired of waiting to that third stage to get there, but we have a full season ahead of us in its entirety. So let's not get too caught up down now. Let's look at it like that. Hey, we have a whole season. Now this is year 2 with this new car. We're going to have teams that have figured it out. They're going to be running better than others. We're not going to have the same parity. So we're not going to get what we had last year, but let's not completely give up on it. And we saw glimmers of great racing in these third stages at some of these races. Let's hope that this translates later half of the season to these teams figuring it out a little bit better, and maybe we get more racing. But I'm close, but I'm not ready to throw it in just yet.
I know how to make the racing better, and it's completely free to NASCAR. They don't have to tinker with the cars. They don't have to change anything. All they have to do is tell the drivers that there's a storm about 30 miles out, and it's heading right towards the track. That'll get them going. Dude, I'm telling you, right, every time we talk about Talladega, I refer back to like it was like 2017, 2016. It was the fall Talladega race, I'm pretty sure of it. And there was a threat of rain. There was a threat of not only a rain, but an absolute monsoon coming towards the track. And for whatever reason, the entire race, it moved in slow, but the threat was there. And that was one of the best races overall I've ever seen, let alone the best Talladega race I've ever seen.
That race.
From start to finish, there was the panic of, we don't know when this race is going to finish, so let's get after it. And they did. And I think that's what we have to start telling the drivers. Hey, guys, there's a threat of storms coming 30 miles out, so you better get on it.
See, the thing that kills me, though, is it doesn't have to be like that. Like, I don't want the chaos of not knowing, because that's when cautions happen and everything. When guys are like up on the chip trying to get everything out of it, then you just get like a wreck fest or whatever. I just want the guys to be able to make moves. You know what I mean? I want the side draft to make a difference.
Yeah, buddy, you should have watched Saturday's race, because those
I know.
those cars were able to move around. They were able to pop out, get other cars uncomfortable, take advantage of it. And that's what I mean. I love the racing that I saw on Saturday. And,
Me too.
you know, I guess I was maybe hopeful for Sunday, but man, hearing how unstable the cars were and how, ill handling, and I mean, I wonder how much it has to do with these rigid, bumpers that are in these, and then how different the manufacturers, the nose, and how they can't bump and hit, and how much that affects it versus the others. I don't know. Something is majorly wrong with these super speedways, because even that 23 car, it led up front for a lot. But by God, if it was anyone other than his teammates, he would have been spun on lap fucking 45, because his car could not pull anything for the life of him. He was so unsteady. That car was absolutely trash. He was lucky his teammates were behind him for as long as he was up front, because I was shit scared every time someone got up to push Bubba. And, credit to his teammates for knowing that his car was ill handling and left him, up there and didn't bail on him. But man, from what I saw, he did not have a car to be leading that pack.
And I think that has to do with the lack of practice too, where like these guys have no practice going in, all the little things that might happen. Like, look at the issues at Daytona where we had guys not even be able to fire off in the duels.
That's my wreckers. So checkers and wreckers, my wreckers is lack of practice. We're talking about it just flows. I'm flowing right into it here, because
let's go.
40 wide for the lead. 1 lap to go.
It's this week's Checkers and Wreckers.
To make the racing better, I think, and this is a question I guess I'll throw out there to you guys. I think lack of practice has caused the first 2 stages to become practice.
So where they're just adjusting on the cars.
Stage 2 is now practice. And now stage 3 is what you're seeing after practice.
Yeah.
So I think previously, we were seeing practice used for practice. So we got better racing over the entirety of the race because the bugs were out. They knew what they were doing. They had a 10-lap run, a 15-lap run. They knew what to do. And that's when you got big movers. You have the comers and the goers. You have long run versus short run. How do you know how to set up your car? You don't know. You have no idea what a short run versus a long run. This simulator shit. This is where technology, in my eyes, they're trying to use that in the simulator to get rid of practice, but it's not working.
Yeah.
And I think they got rid of practice when COVID happened. Then the new car came out. I think it all happened at once. And we're seeing, I think it's something that is affecting the racing more than we believe. It's a lack of practice. It's the complete lack of practice where all these little things could be sorted out and they wouldn't have to use stage 1 and 2 as practice. And then we finally get to see what these guys could do behind the wheel of these new cars in stage 3. So that's my records is NASCAR just not having practice. And my checkers was just EJ making it 3 wide. You know, we talked about it already too, but up until that point, it was literally nothing going on. And finally, like, okay, here we go. He's just making it 3 wide. This could be interesting. And he did it multiple times, and it kind of got exciting from that point forward. Because I think he rattled a lot of people's brains that were behind those cars too. Like, okay, someone's willing to go. If there was someone else besides him that wanted to go, they knew they could trust him on that high side. And, you know, that made it interesting. So, you know, I said we needed a shakeup here at LMC. And, you know, I got the, you know, sick car. He ran like
that
shit
is
Richmond with
card.
it. But I'm like, let's go. This is your race, Talladega. You know, let's get up there. I'll lead some laps with that beautiful looking race car.
Yeah.
And he ended up coming away with a top 6 there, making it through all the disastrous stuff. But
Eric,
yeah,
that shirt might be my checkers.
Dude,
that shirt is
Thunderbird. Sick, dude.
That is
Yeah,
a sick
dude.
shirt, man. That is a fantastic shirt.
So if anyone ever asked us what our Instagram group, what's the theme of like our Instagram group, I'm just gonna show them your shirt. Just the cars and jets flying around.
We send a lot of jet videos back and forth.
Yeah.
Speaking of, if anyone is in the Pennsylvania, New York, or New Jersey area, Pocono Raceway is having a air show in May. I believe it's at the end of May, and the Blue Angels will be there. So that's a big draw. If you want to see some cool jets and come out to a racetrack, hit up Pocono
Eric, I have a
Raceway.
couple Jets shirts too.
Yeah, but those aren't cool jets though.
Oh, come on, man. Don't take this day from me. God damn it.
I'm sorry, man. How about you, man? What's your checkers and records?
So my checkers is it's the crowd that showed out at Talladega. Week in and week out, we say that the best way to consume a race is the at-track experience. So the people got out to the track this weekend, which is always going to be rewarded on this show, right? We always like talking about that. Eric's already been to a race this year. Whitey and I will be at the next one down in Dover. We love seeing packed grandstands. It's too bad it was for that race. But just a great show out. And it's, you know, Talladega is, you know, the allure of Talladega itself is what really brings the fans there. But, and it's always packed there, but it's always good to see.
And how about your records? What's your records?
My records. So, I mean, we've already done enough wrecking. So I didn't know what to pick here, but I went with Clint Boyer.
Okay.
You know, I'm over the Boyer experience. You guys have been here for a while, and I'm officially jumping on board with you guys. I've always been a Boyer fan, a Boyer supporter, but his funny man shtick is officially old in my mind. You know, I could put up with his shenanigans when he was providing decent insight, but he's not even doing that anymore. He regularly fails to meet the big moments, and in other instances, he brings too much energy where it's not required. You know, he asks the same exact stupid questions to the drivers after every stage. Hey, man.
Hey, how's your hot rod running? Oh, my God. If I hear hot rod one more time.
And then he just needs to shut the fuck up sometimes. He talks too long. He's too long-winded. He's going on and on and on, talking about something. And Mike Joy, you could tell he wants to buzz in and like do some kind of play-by-play. And I think, Matt, you had said you're over Mike Joy as well, and I agreed with that. But part of me, is it because of Clint Boyer that is he taking up too much?
He's just giving up. He's like, fuck
Mike
it.
Joy has given up too. I think.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like Mike Joy's just like, I'm over it.
Boyer's fault.
Mike Joy has given up. I think Mike Joy's given up like way given up. Like don't be surprised if Mike Joy retires after this year quietly.
My hopes is that Kevin Harvick does not like Clint Boyer and just calls him out on being stupid and
they're
just
buddies
being
though,
bad.
dude. Like I think they're close off the track.
Okay. Well, that's unfortunate because like you said, he never shuts up and he never completes a point quickly enough where he just kind of rambles on, and then gets confused and then just kind of trails off.
By the time
like
he finishes
this.
his point, we're a lap or two after the fact, and it no longer makes sense to what's on the screen. There was a moment yesterday where I think Eric and I couldn't text fast enough. There was a moment yesterday where Boyer couldn't complete his sentences. He couldn't, in a stream of 3 or 4 sentences in a row, he just kept fumbling over himself.
Mouthful of marbles.
And by the time he got to his point, it was over. Whatever he was talking about was 3 laps ago.
And you're like, I don't even know where this started. I just know it finished off with him.
He didn't either. He lost his first train of thought. And then towards the end, when he knew he was stumbling, he's like, all right, Clint, this is what you got to get it together here, bud. You don't know what you were saying. Say something. And all of a sudden he just started spitting something else out. And then he went to a completely different, what was in front of him on screen. He just went to that. And it was a smooth transition because then there was Mike Joy to go this, a pit reporter. And it kind of got washed into the weeds a little bit. But he literally, like Matt said, couldn't form a complete sentence and just mumbling. And I'm like, oh my God. Within the first 8 laps of the race, I texted him and I go, I already said to myself, shut the fuck up, Clint Boyer, twice in the first 11 laps of this race. And there was every week in and week out too. They do these skits with Clint Boyer that are supposed to be funny, and they're just not. And I don't know. Yesterday he did something with Frankie Muniz where he got in the new Mustang and he was driving around Charlotte. And I don't know if it was supposed to be funny, but it was so cringeworthy. It's just I don't know. I'm over it. Let's take the sport. I know we're in the weeds here. We've talked about this a million times, but let's take the sport a little bit more seriously than this. I can't wait. Every year, I can't wait to get to the NBC broadcast because and then, by happenstance too. I don't know if it's because the way NBC handles our sport.
They take it way more seriously.
Doesn't it seem like the racing and the season gets so much better once NBC takes over?
I think because they actually take it seriously and it feels like true competition. Can I play you a clip of Clint Boyer talking, though? This is all I hear half the time. This is from The Simpsons.
We can't bust heads like we used to, but we have our ways. One trick is to tell them stories that don't go anywhere. Like the time I caught the ferry over to Shelbyville. I needed a new heel for my shoe. So I decided to go to Morganville, which is what they call Shelbyville in those days. So I tied an onion to my belt, which was
at this point I'm texting Matt.
No,
at this point right here, I'm texting Matt. I'm like, dude, you can't even get a sentence out.
Nickels had pictures of bumblebees on them. Give me 5 B's for a quarter, you'd say. Now, where were we? Oh, yeah. The important thing was that I had an onion on my belt, which was a style at the time. They didn't have white onions because of the war. The only thing you could get was those big yellow ones.
And Clint, the race was over 30 seconds ago.
Anyways, Noah Gregson into the wall. Let's get him on the microphone. Noah Gregson, you had a hell of a hot rod out there. What happened? Well, Clint, I hit the wall. It's the same shit over and over again.
Pay attention, listeners. Pay attention from now on at the end of every stage when Boyer hooks up with whoever the stage winner is and he starts asking them questions, and write down what the questions are. It's going to be the same questions every single week. I promise you.
Yep.
And then we should also play a new game. Take a shot every time Boyer says hot rod. You're going to get drunk. You're going to get hammered.
And then by the end of the race, you're going to be talking like Clint Boyer. Then he'll start making sense because you're just going to be hammered. You're like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what Clint's talking about. The Aeroforce down package and all that stuff makes complete sense. I don't know, man. He's a mess. I don't know. Anyways, am I up? This podcast is a mess because this racing is a mess. Mike Checker's got to go to Todd Gilliland. I was going to give it to him after Bristol Dirt, actually, and I didn't because he got his second top 10 this season at Bristol Dirt. So now he gets it for his third top 10. He's running in 3 different cars. He's been making the best of it after we talked about early on in the season. He lost his full-time ride at Front Row Motorsports. Zane Smith took a bunch of his rides, his race is over. So he's been jumping back and forth between that, a Rick Ware car, the 38 car, the 36 car. And he's sitting 22nd in points, which I think is super respectable for a guy in his second year. I'm hoping some bigger teams are watching, because I know a lot of times we'll be like, oh, why would a guy move up to a lower team just to ride in Cup? And I think he's really outperforming his equipment, and it's really showing. So I got to give the checkers to Todd Gilliland. My Wreckers, this package in these races, I'm not going to lie, I'm not having fun this season. And it's because the racing is shit. And I've been listening to the guys at DBC bitch about the Super Speedway package, and I was like, man, you guys are just crybabies. But for real, that race was so bad yesterday, and it's because you can't side draft. And the old car wasn't symmetrical. This car's symmetrical. I was listening to an interview with Michael McDowell. He was talking about how it's symmetrical. The side panels are smaller, so it's harder to side draft. It's just not effective. I brought it up last year watching super speedway races, how like you couldn't use the side draft, and it's hurting it's hurting the product. It really is.
Whitey, I think you said something important there too, is that DBC has been shitting on the super speedway packages. DBC and every other major mainstream NASCAR podcast show on Sirius, everyone's been bitching about the racing in general.
Yeah.
We were the last ones holding out hope and being positive about it. So that's why I said earlier, I hope this isn't someone's first show listening to us, because we've held on for so long being positive, putting that silver lining into every race. And I think it's just eventually caught up to us as well. So it's just been a drag, man. And I think, Eric, you said it perfectly. We got a lot of season left, guys. It's only April. We have until November until this season's over. We have a lot of racing ahead of us. Let's just hope, the summer months bring about some really good racing. We've got some fun tracks coming up, some new things coming up. And, we've been down. I think maybe it's time to turn ourselves around here and just look forward to Dover, as long as it doesn't rain, because it looks like it's going to. So we might have a Monday afternoon race, just giving everybody a heads up now that it might be a Monday afternoon race. Plan accordingly. The racing's got to get better, right? It's been shit this whole season. It's got to get better from here.
I'll tell you what I think the true test is going to be, and it's the weekend after Dover at Kansas, because Kansas was some of the best racing we saw last year. We have the Coke 600 coming up. That was one of the best races of the year last year, and everyone was in agreement. This car was absolutely amazing on 1.5 miles. Now, that was last season when everyone was still trying to get their hands around just the car itself. We saw so much parity. And Eric, I think you made this point earlier where, now the good teams are kind of rising to the top again. We're seeing multiple winners really quickly. Kyle Busch won 2 races, William Byron won 2 races, Kyle Larson won 2 races, So maybe the parity last year kind of masked a lot of things, because it was like 1 week, certain guys were hitting on the setup, everyone else was failing. The next week, a whole another group of people were hitting on the setup, everyone else is failing. Now we're seeing the good teams hitting on the setup, having good cars, but now they're just too close together where there's no, like, the parity is almost too good. Well, not parity. I don't know, like the playing field's been leveled so much where it's like everyone's going the same speed, so no one could pass each other.
We're becoming F1.
Yeah.
But that's what worries me though too, because once that starts happening, this is kind of what happened when they ran the high downforce 550 package. There was just so much aero. They were on rails just following one another, and the aero was so, they're so aero dependent. They kind of went to, let's change the racetracks. Let's put the PJ1 down. Let's put the resin down. Instead of trying to change the car, now they try manipulating the track to go with a certain package that they were running. And that's what I talked about a couple of weeks ago, where it's like, what are you doing? You're changing too many variables at the same time, and you can't really tell what is the cause. Are you getting better? Are you getting worse? Like, I would hate I would hate for them to start changing the track and putting sticky stuff down and trying to go that route before they went with a new tire or something like that. But man, this is shades of, I know Whitey, you said earlier in our text group that time is a circle, because it just seems like these same issues that we probably were talking about 10 years ago, kind of with that 550 low downforce or high downforce package. It's kind of ringing same what we're seeing now, where they might go to changing the track, and it just, this is some dangerous waters we're going in, and I kind of worried about this because of where our sport was going heading into this, steadily on the rise. And I know I was a little optimistic about it, but I also knew that this could possibly destroy the momentum that we had.
Yeah.
And this is kind of getting to the critical point that I was dreading, but this car might be ruining the steady uphill climb that this sport was in for the last few years. And I expect things with the new car. I think we all did, right?
Absolutely.
But to
yeah.
me, it seems like last year's season, the way it went, I would expect that to happen this year. And this year's season, I would expect it to be last year.
Yeah.
And that's just what it seems like. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we don't know the car. We have this. Okay, so the good teams are going to win. Those smaller teams aren't. Like, and it just seems like, okay, with the part shortage last year, you think they wouldn't be as aggressive. They were more aggressive last year. Like,
yeah.
Like, it just seems like now they're playing it safe, and it's like we're not getting the same result. I don't know. It's been weird. It's been strange. But I also just keep telling myself, this is only the second year in a whole completely new car.
Yeah.
Part of me is telling me, give it time. It's too early to hit that button. So I'm going to stick with that. There's problems, yes. And I want that to be known. I want us to admit that and not just kind of, play the role we always say, like the serious guys, and like, oh, I'm not towing the company line here at all. There's some issues, and they got to get sorted out, because I'm teetering on that line where I always talk about how proud I am to help raise the awareness for the sport and show my passion for this sport. And, I'm proud to say that I'm helping to grow this and have people over. But man, these last couple of weeks, I feel embarrassed to even come on this show and try to talk and break down a race like we saw in the last few, since in this season. I'll just say it, this season.
Yeah, because it's like, what do you even talk about besides,
NASCAR won't call it low down shit-ass racing. You bet.
We have to. It's low down shit-ass racing. It's garbage racing, We've been optimistic. I want to be optimistic. I want to be like, yeah, next week's going to be great. But I'm nervous.
Stage 1 and 2 is practice. Stage 3, they race, and that's just the way it's going right now.
I was gonna say something and I can't remember. Just about like,
Clint Boyer, get it out.
Yeah, fuck you. That was a good one. No, like I'm just thinking, like I don't even. It's like I don't even know what to say to make it better. Like I don't want to be the complaining guy. I really don't. Like I want to look forward to Sundays. I look forward to Sundays because I love NASCAR racing. I love racing in general, and so far it just hasn't been a lot of fun. Like there's things I'd rather be doing with my Sunday, and we love it so much we dedicated doing a podcast for the last 3 years to it.
And it's not just for a couple hours on a Monday night that we dedicate ourselves to this. I mean, we are going all week long, whether it's passing information back and forth, talking about what's going on.
Yeah. And the thing too, like this whole entire day, we barely talked about the race because there's nothing to talk about. It's like, how do you get on a Monday and talk about the things that happened in a race where nothing really happened until the last stage? And the only reason things really happened was because the person who was leading got wrecked out. Like Noah Gragson, hell of a run, got wrecked out. Harrison Burton was up front. He got wrecked out. Those are what created the interesting parts of our day yesterday. It wasn't the racing. It was, who wrecked and who got taken up in the wreck, And I don't like I don't like the big one. I like super speedway racing because it's quick passing. It's chess at 190 miles per hour. But if you can't move any of your pieces on the chessboard, then it doesn't matter how fast you're going. You know,
I'll say it again. If somebody were to ask me, well, you know, you guys are doing all this bitching. What do you want to see out of a super speedway race? Saturday. What I saw Saturday is what I want to see in the Cup Series.
Right. Yes.
Right. If the Cup Series was the race that we saw on Saturday from the Xfinity Series, probably would have been an A+ race. We'd be here spitting glory right now, but it wasn't, and it stunk. And going forward, we're only going to be talking about Xfinity Series.
Yeah. I mean, side drafting, you know, actual battles, hard to drive cars, all that stuff, and that's what we get in the Xfinity Series. It's what everyone wants in the Cup Series. And I even tweeted this morning at NASCAR, can we just run the Xfinity Series cars in Cup now? Can we just do it? Is it possible? Bring back the old chassis? Like, I understand the next gen looks cool, but like, if it's a shitty car, it's not performing, you know, like, why even bother? I don't know, man. I don't know. It's just, it's depressing on a Monday because you want to talk NASCAR. I want to have a dialogue with the listeners and have a back and forth. And
usually a race like Talladega propels you into the next few weeks. Not only 1 week, the next few weeks, because normally you have tempers flare and you have this team was trying up in here. You had this person do that. Oh, we didn't work together. They were supposed to work with me, but he didn't. Oh, this guy had a good run here. And like, I don't know, there was no momentum. There was no good storyline out of it. Like, it left me feeling empty, to be honest with you. And I think that's what you're feeling, Whitey, is like,
empty. You're right.
Leading up to the race, like I just feel empty after that race. Like there's nothing that wants me to listen to the podcast, look for the news, and listen to what other people have to say about the racing and see their point of view. Oh, what did they think? And like I'm usually involved in the topic of NASCAR every day of the week.
Yeah, we barely talked today.
Reading something, and it's keep me going into that next week. And it's almost like Matt said, like it's a constant cycle that like from week to week, I'm involved and listening and paying attention. And tell you what, I've kind of checked out a little bit and haven't really been there. There's been nothing. And it just kind of, the only thing I'm seeing and why I don't go on there is just, it's stuff that we don't like to talk about a lot and bitch about because we don't like to complain. But Whitey, there comes a point when we have every right to complain too. You know, I think we've done this for how long where we try to not be that. But like I said, there comes that point when you have to just admit that I don't think NASCAR even. Then again, it could have been a bunch of lies. Where like, oh, this car is going to make road coursing better. It's going to be able to do this, and I remember all this hype about it. It's going to be able to do this. When they corner here, they're going to be independent suspension. They're going to be able to do this. It's going to be the grip and the mechanical and the blah. And they made it just seem like this car is going to be amazing, you know?
Dude, I wish you guys.
And everything that they said so far made it worse.
I wish you guys were around when the car of tomorrow was about to debut. This same hype was surrounding that car as well. And it was just like, wait until this car changes, revolutionizes NASCAR, and it stung.
Matt, I'm glad you brought that up though, because time is a circle. Things will get better. The sun will come up tomorrow and we will enjoy racing again because we figured it out today. The car of tomorrow is still on track in the Xfinity Series. It's putting out fantastic racing. I think the next gen car can put out fantastic racing. And Eric, you said something that jogged my memory. I remember what I was going to say a couple minutes ago before I had a Clint Boyerism. I blame Fox. Fox is to blame because in 2021, they kept on saying, this is the best season. Yeah. This is the best season of NASCAR racing you will ever see. And goddamn it, we thought last year might have topped it. We weren't sure, but it's been going downhill. And I think the last season of the Gen 6 car was the best season that we're going to see for a while.
Season was, do you remember we were talking? You can go back and find episodes from our first season that we did this. And we were like, guys, this momentum that NASCAR is riding, like this is amazing. So unbelievable. Like mainline this right into my veins. Like this is
dude, I was just gonna say feed me that energy again. Like,
Yeah.
I might just go back. I might tomorrow. I might listen to one of our old shows from that season just to maybe get a little bit of that energy back in me.
You want to know what? I think what we have to do, we legitimately just have to become a NASCAR Xfinity Series podcast. We'll start following the NASCAR Xfinity Series guys. We'll figure out all the entire storylines, and we'll just cover Saturdays for the fan that wants to know more in-depth stuff about the names that are being made in the Xfinity Series. All right, that's the end of the complaint train. I thank all the listeners if you're still listening, and let us know what you think. Let us know what you thought in the comments of the YouTube video. Hit us up on Twitter or Facebook. Are we making a mountain out of a molehill, or are you guys on the same page? Are you guys kind of?
I hope we are making a mountain out of a molehill. I hope we're just all having a case of the Mondays. And once we're done with this episode, we're going to leave it in the rear view. And like I said, we go into Dover, Kansas, Darlington the next couple of weeks, and we see some outstanding racing.
I tell you what, one guy who had a worse day at the Talladega race than we had watching it, for sure. Everyone loves to talk about the winner on a Monday, one Kyle Busch. But here on the Bumper Run podcast, we also like to talk about the guy who came in last place. It was Kyle Busch's teammate, Austin Dillon. He wrecked out checking up for Harrison Burton. Well, actually, Harrison Burton spun in front of the pack. Did you guys see the video of Joey Logano's onboard that I sent you guys? Because Zane Smith in the 36 car or the 38, I can't remember which one he's driving for front row. He starts checking up. Logano did not check up, smashed right into the back of him. That sent Zane Smith shooting right up the track into Austin Dillon, and that is how Austin Dillon's day ended. I thought it was interesting, though. His teammate won, and he came in last. They bookended the entire Talladega race. So Richard Childress, the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, all in one race.
Tell you what, how about that? Oh, Priest hit. Man, that in-car hit was absolutely brutal. And we'll talk shit on this new car, but some of these hits that I've seen that these drivers have taken, they felt it. The car has been there, but I will say Larson's made me nervous.
Me too.
Larson's
yeah, that made me real nervous too.
Me too.
That was scary because that roll cage busted and that whole driver's side or passenger side that was caved in pretty good.
It was ripped open like a can.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing too, like, what he just said, we're going to be more positive to end out this podcast here is, remember last year, what was the big thing with these cars? It was the rear end not supporting enough and causing a lot of these head injuries.
Yeah.
So far, knock on wood, it seems like that might have been fixed, which if that's the case, and again, I don't know, but I just know that we haven't heard a lot about head injuries so far this season, is if they can fix that, they can fix the competition side of things as well. So they can fix the safety. They can also fix the competition side of things. I'm confident that they will too.
I tell you what, though, that Ryan Preece in car was hard to watch. Like, he was bouncing around that seat like crazy. And,
One hand.
Yeah, and I'm wondering too, though, do you want to move around that much? Like, as it's like, does that help absorb some of it? Do you want to be real stiff? I'm not exactly sure.
You want to move a little bit, I would assume, right?
Not your head, though. Your body, you want to be loose.
Yeah.
Your body, you want moving around a little bit, but your head, you
want to put that all the way back and kind of have it cushioned in too, right? I remember Dale Jr. talking about this last year on the podcast, after all of the concussion injuries and stuff, where he talked about when he was a driver, the thing back then, they wanted to be able to move their head as much as possible so you could see your mirrors, you could see everything going around you. And when they introduced those side things, they would bend them out to kind of get more movement. And that was kind of a detriment to them, where it kind of created some of those head injuries, was the movement being too much. I don't know how it is in this new car. It looks vicious. I would like to know what Ryan Preece said after the race. I didn't hear any comments on it.
That it was number one on his list of accidents that he's ever been in, no matter what he was racing.
Okay. Well, he's
That'll
raced,
do it.
He's raced a lot of things, so that's a little disheartening. I was trying to get more positive.
The one thing I did think that was interesting was Larry Mack said during the Xfinity series, and I've heard them talk about, not just him, but other analysts talk about this in the past. And I always think it's so interesting when this gets brought up. Whenever there's a rollover, it gets brought up, is that a rollover is actually easier on your body than a hit like Larson and Preece had yesterday, because with the rollover, there's actual energy leaving
being
the
removed,
car
yeah.
itself as it rolls. So by the time it comes to its conclusion, a lot of the energy has been taken out of it. So there's not that big impact that you have. Whereas when Preece and Larson connect like that, I mean, that's all the energy that both cars have meeting at the same time, creating that big force. So I always thought that aspect was crazy. The crazier a wreck might not necessarily be worse on the body.
That's kind of like how it is too. Like, it's like, oh, that looked vicious, but in reality, they jump out and they're like, yeah, it wasn't too bad, a little shaken up. And then you see ones where it's like, oh, that, like the Kurt Busch wreck at Pocono, you think like, oh, that one wasn't too bad. If you've watched enough, you realize like when some of those hits look better than they actually are. Because I remember seeing that, I go, that was a bad hit, you know? And everyone else around me was like, oh, no, he just backed it into the wall. I'm like, no, but he backed it into the wall doing like, I don't know, 140 off turn 3. Like that was 160. Like that was a bad hit, you know? And then you see that rollover where it's like, but like you said, all that momentum, all those pieces flying off the car, that's energy being dispersed that's not in your body. So again, not engineers. I would love to know more about that. And I know Stewart Haas Racing did send that car to the NASCAR R&D Center so they can.
So did Larson.
Yeah.
The 5 went to the R&D too because they want to look at it for safety. Did you see the? And we can move on after this. But did you see like the roll bar in the 5 car was bent to shit up too? Yeah. It wasn't just the body; it was the actual chassis was all bent to shit too. So just a vicious hit.
That was another thing that people were talking about on Twitter a lot, where they're like, oh, if that impact happened on the driver's side, like Larson could have easily been killed, which I'm not saying he couldn't have, but I do want to point out for anyone listening at home that the roll cage on the driver's side is much more rigid than on the passenger side. So like when you look inside the car, you'll see just the tubing, the bars and everything. You could see through them to the body panels. On the driver's side, there's a whole piece of sheet metal that's welded to each bar of that side of the roll cage. So it is stronger and stiffer on the driver's side. So I don't know if we would see the same type of carnage and bent metal on the driver's side. I'm not saying that driver's side impact at 180 would be good, but it might not be as bad as you would imagine too. So just something to keep in mind. Anything else to talk about the race? I was impressed by RFK, even though they sat in literally like second to last and last position all day long on the lead lap. They were able to pull out a pair of top 5s. Chris Buescher getting third. It did. Worked. It did. And you want to know what though? I was nervous it wasn't, because I had both those guys in my fantasy lineup, and all day long they were getting me single digit points, and I was not thrilled. Maybe that's also, you want to know what? Maybe that's why I'm so sour about the racing at Talladega.
Fantasy was awful.
Awful fantasy day. At one point I had 86 points. I was like, what is this? This is garbage, you know? So I mean, there's always a little bit extra to the story, but I don't know. You guys see anything else interesting? I know, Eric.
I have one last thing that I couldn't not mention. It was my backup records in case none of y'all took it, which I thought at least one of yous was going to take it. But I have to call out Joey Logano for that shitbag fucking move that he pulled after his penalty.
Dude.
I mean, you get a speeding penalty, right? Okay, you fucked your day up. You got a speeding penalty, so now there's 3 laps to go in the stage. Let's not just hang around, catch the pack, get the wave around, that way. No. You screwed your day up as the driver, right?
Yeah.
So now let's park your car in the middle of the oncoming 2 fucking lane train and basically just try to wreck everybody in front of you.
Avoid it.
It's one of the dumbest moves I've ever seen, and I'm like, I still don't know how it worked out for him. That's just the type of person he is, though. That was stupid and dangerous.
Real
As soon as it
dangerous.
happened, we started texting each other like, what the hell was that? Like, you saw McDowell every time the pack came up to him, he got up to the wall and he let them go.
Yep.
You saw a bunch of cars doing that, but what Logano did was he stayed right in the middle of the pack, right in the middle of the track, and he let the pack catch up to him, and they literally had to split around him going at full speed, where like, if that didn't, it worked out, like nothing happened, but if it didn't, like he could have caused some major catastrophes there. And it was just a shithead, boneheaded, just selfish move.
That's him. Those are the things everyone's, why don't you like, it's that, those little things just irk the shit out of me.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm glad you brought up McDowell, because McDowell was multiple laps down all day long and he was never in the way. If the train was running too wide, he would go as high as possible and they'd go blowing right by him. At one point, they were 3 wide and they showed it on the broadcast. He got right down to that yellow line, he painted that line down. As they went around him, they had no issues. And then you see Joey Logano, a veteran, a champion of the sport, just pulling a move like that. Absolutely unacceptable. And you're right. He got lucky that it worked out for him.
Yeah, and he pulled another shitty move that took out the field anyway later on in the race.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's Joey Logano. You know.
Boys,
what's up?
Do you hear that outside?
No.
I hear rain.
Dude.
That means my yard's gonna grow.
Nice.
Oh, this podcast is turning out to be pretty damn good.
Hell yeah, man. Hopefully it doesn't rain next week, though. It's in the forecast, but hopefully it stays clear, because
Marty, you've got to come back with me.
Where?
The next NASCAR Cup race. It's the weekend preview.
And we are heading to Dover, Delaware. Xfinity on track, the best race of the weekend, Saturday, 1:30 on FS1 for the A Game 200. And then Cup on track Sunday, 2 p.m. on FS1 for the Worth 400. Last week, boys, we got to go over our picks for the week. Eric, you won the weekend. You picked Chase Elliott to win at Talladega.
I won with Chase?
He didn't win, but he got the most points in fantasy because of the stages. He got 44 points total. Matt, well, I came in second. I picked Ryan Blaney. He got me 35 points. And then Matt, you came in third with 32 points. You picked Brad Keselowski. So very tight across the board. But that means Matt gets to pick first for Dover. I pick second, and Eric picks last. I'm going to ask, are the DraftKings lines open or no?
I honestly didn't even check, but they haven't been on Mondays. So
yeah. So
listen, without them this season, we've been doing pretty damn good.
We have been doing pretty good. We picked 3 winners in the last 10 races. So I think we could do it again. Matt, who are you picking for Dover?
We've only got 3 picks per driver for the entire season. So we're trying to be sparing. I've held off on this guy. He's already got a couple wins. I have a good feeling about Hendrick Motorsports this weekend. I am taking Slick Willie 2 Clocks in the 24.
Okay. All right. I like it. Like you, I'm trying to do a little management here, because I have picked a lot of guys already that normally I would pick at Dover. One guy I haven't picked this season yet, and he did really well at Dover last year until he lost a tire on pit road. He's been doing really shitty this whole year. He said he's coming back.
Yeah.
He said, watch me at Talladega. I'm going to be good. And every race going forward, Matt's throwing up the 2 1s for the number 11. I'm going with Denny Hamlin to win in Dover, Delaware. How about you, Eric?
I'm going with somebody that I think is on the brink of getting that win that I think propels that team and that organization to maybe more wins, and they get their shit together. I'm going with Martin Truex Jr.
Oh, nice. He did really well last year here too.
Yes, he did. Chastain dumped him, and that was that. Yeah.
All right, we're 10 races into the 2023 season, and we have 7 different winners. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Kyle Busch, William Byron, Joey Logano, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Larson, and Christopher Bell all have themselves locked into the playoffs. Can Slick Willie Two Clocks get his 3rd win of the season? Can Denny Hamlin get his first win of the season? Or will Martin Truex Jr. get his technically 2nd win of the season, first points paying win of the season? We got 2 Joe Gibbs guys. We got an HMS guy. We'll see how it goes down in Dover, Delaware, Sunday, 2 p.m. on FS1 for the Worth 400. And we will break it all down for you right here on the Bumper Run podcast on Monday night. For Matt the Statman Reilly, for Eric Daytona Ron, I'm Michael D. White saying have a good night.
There it is.